Welcome to the Local Marketing Source Weekly Update, brought to you by localmarketingsource.com.
This week's Local Marketing Update is brought to you by Scott Gallagher. Scott is the co-founder of Local Marketing Source and has become the recognized expert in providing online marketing services to local businesses. Follow Scott on Twitter at ScottGallagher5 and on Facebook.com/ScottPGallagher.
Hey, well, good afternoon, everyone. Scott Gallagher here with Local Marketing Source, bringing your weekly local marketing industry update. Now, this week, we've got a couple of different things to talk about. I've had a very busy week in the premium program as well. We'll get to some of that. But one of our LMS members wanted to have a discussion about schema.org, and some recent study has discussed that 29% of websites are facing a duplicate content issue, and 80% of websites are not using any type of micro or markup data, that's followed in schema.org's microdata site. And interestingly, over 30% of Google search results all have that in the markup. So there's quite a bit of a disconnect there, and that's obviously a factor that's going to affect some of your rankings. So we'll talk about that as well. Google has always battled the SEO industry to a degree, and let's say that Google has won the battle. Now, legally, Google has won the PR battle over SEO, so I'm going to talk about that, but why that's a good thing for SEO people, at least SEO people that commit to the same philosophies that we do at Local Marketing Source. Now, we've been having a lot of fun in our premium program, and it's really interesting. It's really interesting to see these students go through it. I just had probably the best testimonial that I could probably get for that program, and that was one of the existing students that are in it has already committed to getting another seat come January. They've seen so much value in it, so that's fantastic. But just what we are doing right now that we're focusing in on is creating the autoresponders. And there's multiple channels that an agency can capture information from its prospective audience, from its prospects, that it can deliver value through an autoresponder. And, like a mental trigger that is common among every human being. There's some people say there's 20, some people say there's 15, some people say there's 50, some people say there's 6. But there's mental triggers that human beings, that we all have and whatnot. And it's very natural. One of those is called reciprocity. The fact that if I'm going to give something to somebody, they feel like that they're going to want to give something back. And we've got things as an agency that we can give digitally, whether it be a download, some sort of document, a PDF of some sort, something that they can read, that they can see, or something that they can listen to, or something that they can watch. You notice those are our senses. There's also something they can touch and feel. Those are 4 different channels that we've identified. Those could be 4 different opt-in channels. We can give back and give value in those 4 different ways. Each of those 4 different ways, for example, a book. To get a book to somebody, well, that spells authority. That's likely spells some trustworthiness. The conversions of speaking to somebody belly to belly that has your book is going to be a lot better than a prospect that sees a tweet that you've got. Let's face it, they're more likely going to want to speak to you. So each of those channels offer different value, but they're harder to deliver. To write a book, to get it published and printed and mailed out is a lot harder than putting an ad on Facebook and having an opt-in channel to be able to deliver that responder. The fact is you've got to have multiple channels. You can't just build your agency off of one. We know that, and there's a whole variety of channels that you can build. And so an autoresponder is valuable for all of those opt-in channels. and how you can create the autoresponder to have a thank you for the different opt-in channels that you've got. But really, an autoresponder is something that is not going to be the end-all be-all, but it's necessary. It's to get that engagement with an audience. We know from marketing that a prospect needs to see a brand 7 to 21 times before it essentially comes into their subconscious that when they have a need specifically for that service, they're going to contact you. So the autoresponder offers a tremendous amount of value to our branding. Now, creating an autoresponder, people think, well, what am I going to write? Am I just, get down and get to it? And really, one thing we've learned in marketing, that it's about building relationships, and relationships have to do more so with individuals than they do with a business, especially agencies that are going to be less than $20 million or $10 million in size. And just going for the promotion, or an autoresponder, let's say they opt in for a top 10 and or some sort of report, or scarcity report. And your next message that you're going to have out, you're not going to barf out everything else that you have. Well, we have a webinar. Well, we've got this. Well, we've got that. And, you can go and do this. And each email essentially should achieve one call to action, one link to something else. The first one obviously makes a delivery. And we like to follow the 80-20 rule. And that's offering 80% of value and 20% asking for a call to action. Not necessarily, you're not asking for sales through this. Asking for the call to action is to go check something else out. So if they opt in for a top 10 report, out of 5 emails, 4 of those emails are going to offer value of some sort somewhere in the email before you say, hey, go and opt in to my webinar, or go and try and sign up for my analysis. Now, when creating an autoresponder, whether it's, some of the questions I've been getting are, how frequently should I have these emails? How long should these emails be? And how long should my sequence be? And really, the sequence, ideally, should be as long as you can write it. My local marketing source sequence is 6 months. My agency sequence is only 2 months. Ideally, I would like my channels in my agency to be 6 months. But the fact of the matter is the propensity for somebody to convert when you start that relationship versus towards the end of the relationship, the propensity to convert diminishes over time. So we're just trying to get and squeeze those last conversions out. But this is an autoresponder that you're going to spend 4 hours of your time, 5 hours of your time on writing, one day perhaps maximum. And it's something you're going to get value from for 2, 3, or 4 years. Even at least 2 years, you'll get value from that. And so look at it this way, that even if it converts one customer over the course of 2 years, you're getting your return on investment for it. A day's worth of work to get a value of a customer that's worth 10 grand. And mark my words, you're going to get that value from it. So it's a ludicrous thing to not have a simple autoresponder in your business for many different reasons. And that's only one of the pieces of things that are relatively critical to have. As for example, creating trust and authority and having an authoritative book along with you goes such a long way. And people are concerned about how long it's going to take them to write a book. It's not that difficult. It's actually a lot easier than you think. And in theory, you could get a 100-page book written without even having to type any words. You just, if I took my weekly calls, I took 2 weekly calls, I'd have a 120-page book. If I got it transcribed, then I could get it transcribed for $50 or $60. But very soon we're going to be getting into the direct mailer and moving on to follow-up calls. And the direct mailer, the first package. Now, of course, I've got students around the globe, so the answers really lie in testing. But, the United States is the most belligerent marketers on the planet. It's fairly obvious. You just need to do some traveling around the world, and, the amount of stuff you get in the mail here, the length of commercials, the way commercials are, the way the radio works, the way the billboard systems are, and advertising on billboards and advertising on vehicles. I've traveled to 8 countries. I lived in 3 different countries, and I've never seen anything like this country in terms of marketing. The telephone calls, the telemarketers, and it's tough. It's a tough country to market to. I think everybody else in other countries could leverage a lot of aspects, but for us to send out a direct mail package, we utilize bulky mail. We use a manila envelope with handwritten message on it. It looks very personal. Don't even put the company name on it. And it's bulky. It has a book in it. It has a DVD in it. It has a nice letter. The letter says we're targeting 15 people in your geographical area, and we can only close 1. In any event, just wanted to give a little bit of an update of that before we got into some of this week's update. And I'm glad that the discussion about schema.org was raised. It's very clear. 80% of websites, it is said, aren't utilizing a markup language. And schema.org is a website. It's spelled schema.org. It's just like the W3C consortium with the World Wide Web consortium that regulates the way certain things are written. And so HTML is a code that websites operate in. Most of us should know this. And a markup language is an HTML code that we can put on a web page that tells bots, whether it be search engines or other websites that are crawling ours, what certain information is. And this information could then be turned around and displayed onto other pages, whether it be profile pages like Yelp and Google and Facebook and Yahoo, or search pages from search engines. And so there's a lot of value in that. And with the local business world, there's different markups that are important. It hasn't, we haven't seen any new markups in the last year or so, but we went through a couple of years where, new markups became somewhat relevant, and some were a little more relevant. Some of them were just not useful, not necessary. And really, as a new markup tends to come out, people, well, maybe we should do this, maybe we should do that. And now it's almost like that there's so much out there to know. Webmasters aren't doing it. It's clear 80% of websites aren't utilizing any type of schema markups. And this microdata has a lot of value we're here to learn about search engines and get search engine presence and whatnot. And it provides, also in this study, it said that, almost 40% of websites in the SERPs had markups that were used. 36%, I believe, was the exact number, if I go and check here. 36% of the results in the SERPs were displaying a website that had a markup, but only 20% of websites as a whole really have it. So the search engines, that in itself is evidence that markups influence or are a factor in ranking. That's a spread of 16 points. I'd raise a lot of questions about that. I'm not too sure to say that markups are that important that your site is not going to rank. But they are factors. So when it comes to local businesses, a markup would be, for example, to wrap the address, and it will tell a search engine, hey, this is an actual address, and we want it in the form of our NAP, obviously, our NAP that we've established on our profile sheets when we first started with our clients. Testimonials or reviews, there's a review markup as well, and you've got the ability to tell Google that this is a particular review. Now, one thing that we've tested, I haven't seen other results on this, but what we found in our tests, and again, I got to disclose that this test is now going back 2 years. I haven't done it in a couple of years, or at least a year and a half. But nonetheless, when you utilize a review, and you have got a review on your website or a testimonial, and or somebody says something on a video, and you want to put it as in written form on your website, you put quotation marks around it, you wrap it up with an HTML markup of the review markup, you assign it stars, and that's what Google tells you. Boom. Okay. The propensity of those reviews showing up, Google says, well, hey, it may show up in our review count. I've never seen it show up in the review count. But what Google doesn't tell you to do is you could wrap that entire markup, wrap it in a link associated, or sorry, not wrap the entire markup. Within the markup itself, there's a field that is the user, and you put the username, and you can wrap that username in a link to their social profile, whether it be a Facebook or a LinkedIn profile. And that lends authenticity and trust to the review. And we saw results that we were able to get reviews from websites displayed on, back then, Google Plus pages, and now they're just Google My Business pages. Some things have changed. We haven't gone through the test for that, but they're the same pages, just with a different name and a different label. So I have to assume that markup is still, that's a simple little hack to get some authority, and it's a little tweak to start adding some positive reviews. And if you can get that social site, that social individual, to broadcast a public message in regards to it, that ties the loop. That creates the whole loop to say that, hey, yeah, I did leave that review, and yeah, I really am, giving a real vote, a real endorsement for this business there. So I'm glad that this conversation was raised. I think it's something that is often forgotten inside of SEO. The study also found that almost 30% of sites that are facing duplicate content issues, and I don't want to. Well, first off, that's amazing. And when you start talking about duplicate content issues, we're not just talking on the page content, whether it be a title of a web page. And to me, these are the simplest things. They're not going to make or break the ranking, but it's like a web page or a website is like a book, and a web page is like a chapter in that book. It's got content that comes off of it. And so when you've got the same title for different pages in a website, it's like having the same title for different chapters. It doesn't make sense. Why would somebody publish content like that and be so sloppy in the positioning and their writing? A business owner that puts a website out there is publishing content. They are a publisher now, and they're providing information to their audience. And marketing, all marketing is effectively communicating and offering value so your audience can consume it and make their effective decisions. You're doing your best job to give them the information they need so they can make their choices. And that's all marketing really is. And so it blows me away still that these statistics are coming out, that a third of websites out there can't even get the chapters of their titles right. That's like going to school and getting the name wrong on your test, in my opinion. And a third of the people that are trying to become publishers are that dumb and stupid out there that they are producing this type of content. Or ignorant, maybe. Ignorant because they just, hey, I'm going to throw some mud at the wall and let's make it work. No. Sorry. It's not the way successful individuals have marketed themselves in successful businesses, and just hope to have some hope marketing that maybe something's going to come your way. Duplicate content is also misunderstood of the fact that people fear reproducing content. And there's nothing wrong, in my opinion, of having duplicate content for the right reasons in the right places on a website. I mean, a simple example of it is as a publisher, I create content and I've got different channels that I communicate to different audiences, but maybe I create a piece of content that can resonate with both audiences or multiple audiences. My blog, my personal blog versus my personal business blog versus my business blog. There's content that can be relevant to 2 of those channels or 3 of those channels. Some people subscribe to different RSS feeds, so I need to be able to distribute the same content on multiple channels. So the question is as well, what happens if you produce a piece on your personal blog, your business, and your business blog? What happens? Well, Google's built into their algorithm different aspects. You know, they give a lot of weight, and the priority is given to the first piece that they crawl. So if I just copied and pasted one article from one site to another, and Google saw it on my personal blog first, they would just never ever show my business blog post in their SERP ever. They would never give any authority to that post at all. If there was links going to it, it probably, until there was enough links going to it, it may eventually outweigh the other. But the point is Google really is going to likely show just one of the 2, or have their truncated SERP result where it says Google has omitted other search results. We've all seen that. So duplicate content more so doesn't help. But if you've got too much duplicate content throughout your site, like let's say more than 60% of your website is duplicated, well, that's when penalties are going to start to happen. And if 6 out of 10 words on 6 out of 10 pages on your website, or 60% of your website is duplicated from other sources, even if it's your own sources, you've effectively not marketed and segregated your audience elsewhere, or you are plagiarizing. And so that's when serious penalties come in. But this idea of having same title tags and no alt images, and just goes on. Well, on that note, actually, and talking about these, different markups, referring to items like, missing title attributes on images. Well, why? I mean, I don't care about images that that aren't going to offer that much value, like an image like bullet points and whatnot. But hopefully you've thought about the right images on that site, and you've put some thought into the particular image, and the image supports the message, and you would like it to show up in image search and give it authority. So you've got title attributes on the image to put, and you've got alt attributes you can put, just descriptions. If there's any questions about this, please raise your hand, whatnot. I'll get to that. And boy, I talked quite a bit about that. Now, just about the PR battle with Google and over SEO. And, you know, it's been an interesting 10 years working on my agency and seeing what SEO has gone through over the last decade. You know, 10 years ago, it was a cakewalk to manipulate the search engines. You know, I remember when I first started with SEO, we were getting 4,000 links to our clients' websites in a month on an ongoing basis. We were just, I was getting content written for half a penny a word. So we'd get a 400-word article written for $2, and we'd take that $2 article and turn it into 100 different pieces or 100 different links. And then we'd take that same article and then put it through spinning software and get 4 or 5 different variations. So one $2 article, we were able to generate 500 links from it alone, you know, from one article. It cost me $1.50 to distribute it. So, you know, it was like $4, $3-4 per piece. And, you know, I was generating 500 to 1,000 links in some cases to a website. It didn't take that many, you know, like you could turn a website around inside of a week. YouTube, when YouTube first came out, it was like, God, 2007, you could have a video ranking overnight for major search phrases. It was incredible. But obviously the search engines have gotten a lot smarter over the years. And since 2009 has been when I've committed my life's work to researching and understanding local search marketing. That's when it was introduced, where local search was introduced within the Google SERPs as well. And it wasn't just ranking websites, you were now ranking businesses. And as time has gone on, you know, Larry Page and Sergey, they may have wanted to squash the SEO industry, but they know that they can't. And heck, there was just a survey put out by Google recently that asked both local businesses, but it also was able to segment agency owners. And then it went through a slew of questions that were asking agency owners detailed information about the keyword tools and whatnot. And you know, Google realized that they can't fight and they can't work against these agency owners. They've got to work with the right ones and work with the right philosophies that, you know, I don't try to beat the search engines. That's a cat and mouse game. I'm never going to beat it. You know, what happened to all those sites and all those links that I sent all these links to? I mean, there's sites that are out there that have 50 and 60,000 links to it, but they're not getting any rankings at all. In fact, I know I wasn't involved, and none of my sites were involved with any black hat ring groups that got penalized, fortunately. But a lot of people did. But now those 50,000 links going to a lot of those sites just have zero value to them. There's no value to it, because if I write an article about courier service and that article is rewritten 500 times on 500 sites, and let's face it, a courier company in Chicago is only going to get clients that are in Chicago to ship physical goods, because the physical goods have got to be in Chicago for a pickup, right? So nobody's going to be reading something that's on a Chinese-based website for courier services in Chicago. But nonetheless, Larry and Sergey realized that they just weren't going to be able to destroy the industry. And they saw a great opportunity to work with those businesses that are really trying to make businesses better businesses. What marketing truly is all about is engaging with an audience that's out there. There are a lot of opportunities for that. And Google has, provided us different lines like Matt Cutts, and Matt Cutts has been, the spokesperson for Google. We've seen Google pull things away from agency owners, though. The keyword tool, this is something of 4 or 5 years, 3, 4 years ago, I started to talk about when keyword data started to slowly go away, and it was just a big hoopla in our industry. And it was like, well, it's not that important. Keyword research is not a critical stage of SEO for local businesses. It was a unbelievably important stage for e-commerce based businesses back in the day. It still is important. Keyword research is still very important for e-commerce based sites, but for local businesses, it's a different animal. It's so low on the relevance scale. When we start to look at it, identifying your core terms, well, that's important, I think. And identifying your core modifiers of your keywords, I think that's really important too. Your geomods, well, that's not as relevant anymore. So, we've seen Google do different things and offer us different aspects. But I think for better or for worse, the battle of SEO is really, really over. Google has succeeded in shifting their focus of the SEO industry away from short-sighted SEO tactics and more towards creating the best user experience with quote-unquote high-quality content, which of course we know benefits Google. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and take a few seconds here. I'll be back and answer any questions that you guys might have.
Well, thanks for watching the Local Marketing Industry Update. We've got these things coming out every single week, so if you liked with what you heard, just click the button right above me right here to subscribe to our channel. If you'd like to get a little bit more, right over here, go check out localmarketingsource.com. We've got free reports that you can grab. You can even register for a free marketing course to get in and see the portal. Or just go ahead and follow us on some of the social channels. We'll be around. Until next time.